Appreciate it. Okay. Love the energy in the room. Save a little bit of that energy. We may need it. But we're going to have, I have no doubt we're going to have a positive outcome going forward. I want to thank some of the folks who are standing. Actually, I want to thank all the folks who are standing with me today, but want to call attention to a few. NAACP Vice President James Douglas, thank you for once again coming down here. Houston area Urban League President and CEO Judson Robinson III. LGBT community leader Lou Weaver. My longtime friend, LULAC member Yolanda Navarro Black, who's behind me here. Former United Way CEO, Girl Scouts, and former United Girl Scout CEO and women's advocate Jackie Martin. There you go. Pastor Rudy Rasmus of St. John's United Methodist Church, who I have worshiped with many, many times. And you know, you got that new book, Love Period. That's right. Love Period, and I would recommend it. There's obviously some folks in the larger community who don't understand that concept of unconditional love. But I'm surrounded here by many from the community who are directly impacted by the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance. In fact, the entire community of Houston is touched in some way by this Houston Equal Rights Ordinance. And the fact that so many community leaders have stepped up to not just see the ordinance passed, but are standing with me as we potentially have to defend the ordinance is significant. HERO prohibits discrimination in hiring, public accommodation, and housing on the basis of, and track with me here because apparently there are a lot of folks who read this ordinance and miss this part, sex, race, color, ethnicity, national origin, age, familial status, marital status, military status, religion, disability, sexual orientation, genetic information, gender identity, and pregnancy. You hear over and over again that this is somehow an ordinance that only applies to two groups. They focus on sexual orientation and gender identity. It is, in fact, Houston's first comprehensive non-discrimination ordinance that applies to a range of categories that we have deemed from the national level to the local level worthy of some local redress if someone is the victim of discrimination. The Houston I know, the Houston that I have represented for many, many years, does not discriminate, does not tolerate discrimination, and believes that everyone who lives in this area should participate fully in business and civic life. We don't care where you come from. We don't care about the color of your skin, your age, your gender, what physical limitations you might have, or who you choose or happen to love. What we have not had in the past is a local mechanism for people to address direct acts of discrimination against them. If you fall under the federal categories, yeah, you could, I guess, go and file a federal lawsuit. But doesn't it make sense to have some local mechanism where someone can say, I think I was profiled in the mall, or I was turned away from this really hot nightclub and someone said it was because I didn't have socks with my shoes. And guess what? That was a Houston City Council member. Those who are opposed to the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance go on and on and on and on obsessively about whether this has everything to do with men in women's bathrooms. Let me be very, very clear. It is illegal today. It will be illegal tomorrow. It will be illegal under this ordinance or not under this ordinance for a man to go into a women's bathroom. Period. It is illegal today to go into a place of public accommodation for the intent of committing a crime. It will be illegal before, it was illegal before, it's going to be illegal after. This strange obsession with where transgendered men and women choose to do some basic human function, which is toileting, is mystifying to me and frankly a little strange. Unfortunately for us, we have a fairly low bar for someone to organize against ordinances that pass the city. But there is a very clear and defined process for doing that. There's a petition process. Petitions have been turned in, and while there have been a lot of announcements, the only official count is the count that is done by City Secretary Anna Russell. She has 30 days to do that count. Unlike some of the other petition processes that have come forward, this is the first ordinance repeal that we've had, and there is a clock ticking on this one. It will involve some overtime in her department, so it's going to cost the city a little money to count, but we will count those petitions and bring that back forward if they have sufficient petitions. And again, it's a fairly low bar. If they have sufficient petitions, it will be on the ballot in November. But when we pass this ordinance, there were more than 80 current and former elected officials, community organizations, and nonprofit groups that endorsed moving forward. It had the backing of the Greater Houston Partnership, the Houston Hispanic Chamber, the NAACP, the Houston Association of Realtors, Rice University. This was not a narrowly focused special interest ordinance. This is something that the business and civic community of Houston was firmly behind. And we fully expect, if there is a campaign, that it will be a spirited campaign, but we'll have the same outcome in November as we had around the council table. And that is, thank you. You know, Houston does not discriminate. Houston does not discriminate. Houston will not discriminate. And Houstonians will not be fooled by misinformation, hyperbole. I would use the word lies, but I'm gonna back off from that. Misinformation and hyperbole. Apparently, there may be a lot of information. People who are just simply unwilling to read the ordinance for themselves. Because interestingly, nowhere in the ordinance does it say anything like business owners have to go and build. I've heard a lot of people say this: build a gender-neutral bathroom. Doesn't say it. Nowhere in the ordinance does it say men are allowed into women's bathrooms or locker rooms, nor does it imply it, and nor is it true. And I would encourage folks to look beyond the rhetoric, and actually, you know, the ordinance is available on the city's website, and in fact, there's going to be a new website created, equalrightshouston.org, to provide information for those who are interested in this issue, and the ordinance will be available there. Houston doesn't discriminate. Houston won't discriminate. When there are incidents, we are creating a local mechanism to address those incidents in the Houston way, where we can talk through them. It's not a punitive ordinance, although if someone is deliberately discriminating against someone, there are penalties in the ordinance. But what it allows for is the opportunity to mediate, to mitigate, to find common ground. It is a great ordinance. I'm proud to have been involved in the passage of this ordinance. And again, I have every expectation that this is an ordinance that will live in Houston for many years to come and make Houston a better place in which to live. Thank you very much. And thanks to the team who's with me.